Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about Albania. We're going to talk about three cities specifically, and that is the first one being Durrës, the second one being Shkodër, and the third one being Krujë. So when my wife and I landed in the country, we obviously landed in Tirana. We got a rental car, and instead of going and checking out Tirana first, we heard about the driving here. We thought, okay, maybe we'll save that one for last, since we heard the driving is so crazy in that city. So what we did is we drove 30 minutes into Durrës, which is a big city all in itself. And if you're not familiar with where Durrës is, it is near the ocean, right on the ocean actually, and it's again about a 30-minute drive from the capital of Tirana. Now this is a very, very big city, and I was thinking that driving there was going to be a little bit easier, but it is a jam-packed city full of cars everywhere. So being in a new country and driving in for the first time, it was a little overwhelming trying to navigate the traffic flow. And what I realized real quick is that people park anywhere. I mean, anywhere they can, which makes driving difficult. The actual drivers themselves, I didn't notice to be that bad. But again, it's just because there's not adequate parking in that city, and people are just parked anywhere they can find a space, even if it's probably not even a space. And by the way, they do allow double parking. The other thing that was a problem was we used Google Maps, which I heard was the best thing to use over there, and I would agree with it. But just know that it's not very good at figuring out one-way streets. Several times I caught myself going the wrong way on a one-way street. So just keep that in mind when using Google Maps for navigation. So luckily the place we were staying said that they did have parking, and they did, but it was very tight parking, but it was parking, so yay. And the place we stayed in was a little tiny place owned by an Italian lady and her husband, and the place was very cute. The room wasn't very big, but we knew that ahead of time, and it was very clean, very nice. It was a good stay there, and it was in walking distance to just about everything, so it was a good fit for us. And the lady that ran the place was nice enough to direct us to a place that served traditional food. So right from the get-go, we got to enjoy traditional Albanian food, and I gotta tell you, all right, I had low expectations because, okay, I'm a very picky eater. This food was amazing. I can't remember the names of everything, show you pictures of it. All I can say is if it's one of their national dishes or a local dish, give it a try, because the food is really that good. And the nice thing about breakfast time is they have bakeries everywhere, and these bakeries are just phenomenal. Great food for breakfast. Now, I'm not much of a sweet eater in the morning. However, I got over that real quick when I tried some of the stuff there. Now, Durrës was very clean in my opinion and very organized, and it was easy to walk around. One thing about Albania I'll say is they sure do give a lot of room for pedestrians to walk around. They give cars very little room and pedestrians a lot of room. So we navigated the city, and we're going down back alleys and down the main strips, and it's just a beautiful town. We really fell in love with this town. The people were extremely nice. I'm going to give them a 10 out of 10 on being friendly in Durrës, which I can't say for some of the other cities, so just keep that in mind. But the people in Durrës were very friendly. You're right there by the ocean, which we did not go to, so sorry I told you there'd be no footage of that kind of thing, but we really enjoyed it there. Now, one of the things we noticed real quick that we needed to buy, now we live in Thailand, by the way, and we're visiting Albania, and yes, we're Americans. Makes things a little confusing. But we had to buy an adapter for the plugs in the wall. Now, since we're coming from Thailand to Albania, the voltage is the same, so it wasn't a voltage converter. They just have a specific type of plug that works into their walls, and our plugs from Thailand did not work. So one of the things we had to do is go to an electronics store and buy an adapter just to simply plug our things into the wall, which we got really cheap there for like a couple of dollars a piece. We bought 2 of them. So that was one of the things that we did need to buy in a relative hurry because we need to get our phones charged. In Durrës, we did have our first drink of raki, which if you've never heard of raki, that is a drink that Albanians are very proud of. They have it everywhere, and you will find people drinking it everywhere you look, especially when you figure out what kind of glass they normally serve it in. You're going to see it everywhere. And they got different varieties of raki. You can find it in different flavors. From what I understand, it is made from grapes. It doesn't taste a thing like wine. In my opinion, it tastes a little bit like old moonshine. Very strong. I could just sip it. It was very good. But you do need to try it when you're here at least once. Now, we did enjoy nighttime in Durrës. Beautiful place at night, well lit, and that's when the place, in my opinion, really comes alive. Everyone comes out of the woodwork and everyone's milling around everywhere. It's an absolutely beautiful place. So if you're going to come to Albania, make sure that you do have Durrës on your checklist of places to go. Now, the next place we went was Shkodër, and I gotta say, before ever coming to Albania, based on what I saw on the internet, Shkodër was gonna be the place for me. So I could not wait to get to this place. So the drive there took a couple of hours from Durrës. It was a fairly easy drive. It was all highway. I will mention this again about navigation in the country for Google Maps, is that a lot of times it told us to take the exit off of this big major highway called A1, and there were no exits. Every time it said to take an exit, there was no exit there at all, not one under construction. It just did not exist. So another quirk you're going to find using Google Maps in Albania, but as far as I know, there's nothing else to use. But the drive to Shkodër wasn't bad whatsoever. Now, a couple of funny stories along the way. So it was lunchtime. We still hadn't reached Shkodër. So we stopped over at this one restaurant on the side of the road, and they weren't serving lunch yet. It was 11:30 and they didn't serve lunch till 12. You could buy alcohol and drinks there. They were only serving drinks, but not food. So we got back in the car. We tried a second restaurant on the side. Okay, so we go and we sit down, guy comes out, and we're like, he's looking at us, we're looking at him, and I'm like, menu? And he says, we don't have menus. But, okay, well, what do you have? He goes, we have meat, we have vegetables. Well, what kind of meat, what kind of vegetables? And he never really said, and he just kept staring at us, so we weren't getting anywhere, and we just said thank you and left. My thought is, he was a little bit nervous about talking to foreigners because he didn't know any English, and we knew very little Albanian, which is our fault, not his. So that restaurant didn't work out for us. Now we went to a third restaurant, and lo and behold, they did have menus for us, and we could order some food. So just know, if you're gonna pull off the highway to somewhere, it's crapshoot. You never know what you're gonna get. So Shkodër is a mountainous area. It's one of the things I liked about it because there were mountains everywhere. So when we arrived in Shkodër, we called ahead of time to the lady we were renting her Airbnb if there was a place to park, because we heard parking was ridiculous there. And she sent us to a public parking area that you had to pay for, which was fine with us. So we parked a little bit away from our Airbnb and checked in. It was a nice looking Airbnb. It was 2 levels, had a lot more room, and it was a very nice stay. By the way, the internet speeds were decent in both Durrës and in Shkodër, just to let you know. So if internet speed is a concern of yours, don't let it be, because it was extremely good in both locations. Now, the view from our room was, in my opinion, spectacular. It looked over the city, and you could see the mountains in the distance as well. So we did enjoy the view from our room. Now, we immediately got out and started walking down the streets of Shkodër, which are beautiful, and they give a lot of room for people to walk around. Now, this is a place where you're going to find a lot of bicycles and the stand-up e-scooters and every other mode of transportation there. There were still plenty of cars, but there was a lot more of everything else. So if you're a biker, or you're somebody who likes e-scooters or things like that, you're going to love Shkodër because they have it everywhere. And the whole place looks like it's set up for that type of thing. There's a huge mosque that's right there, which is, it's a beautiful mosque. And they also have a cathedral there as well, not too far from each other. Nighttime in Shkodër was beautiful as well, and it was just a joy to walk down the streets. Some of them looked like, you know, these old-timey streets. Everything was just picture perfect there. It's a beautiful place. I'm going to tell you, as far as looks goes, I would say Shkodër is one of the top on the list. Beautiful place. You definitely need to check it out. It did rain just a little bit while we were there, but not a whole lot. All in all, Shkodër is a beautiful place. Next on our list is Krujë. So this originally was not on our list. We decided instead of staying at Shkodër for more days, we decided we were just gonna nix it and go somewhere else. So we went up to Krujë. Little did I know what kind of driving challenge was going to lie ahead to get there. So when we were driving there, the drive was okay. A lot of times it was a one lane and we had somebody just going slow in front of us, which was making our drive a lot longer because you couldn't pass them either. You could if you were crazy, but for the most part you shouldn't. It was a no passing zone and we were stuck behind a slow vehicle. And at one point, thanks Google Maps took us a way we shouldn't have gone. We ended up going down these alleys that we had no business being on, that were about as wide as our car. And at one point, and you can't tell by the video, but we are going straight up, so straight up that the car wouldn't make it. We could not, in first gear, I could not get up this hill. Well, the scary thing is, as we're sliding backward, wasn't even wet. This is dry. We started sliding backward, and a lady from France said, she must have used Google Maps as well, went this way, and she was behind us. We're sliding backwards, which you can't tell from the video, into her. She's backing up. Some guy, a local guy, is trying to yell at everybody on how to pull in, and we were backing up. We hit something when we backed up just a little bit. Didn't damage the car or anything, but we hit something. And then, of course, a big dump truck was coming up behind as well, so we got jammed in there. Again, it was much worse than what the video is going to show you. The lady from France was having a breakdown because she said she only drove once a year and she was stuck on this road, and I'm going to say it was rough. Anyway, we got through that. We eventually got to our room, which was in a nice little hotel, and we had a picturesque view over our balcony. The room was small, it was quaint. We really enjoyed the room while we were there and the view out the window. Again, perfect, looking over the streets and the mountains. Nice little area. So we went walking down the street, and immediately you come into the tourist trap area, but it's beautiful. You go walking down this alley, and they got people selling stuff on the left and the right. To know they don't haggle you to death or try to make you go in their shops. Only one person said, "Oh, please see my stuff." That was the only time. So they're not going to drive you crazy. You'll walk through there. They're all selling about the same things, but some of the things they're selling are just spectacular. They're all geared around the country of Albania, the whole Albanian theme. So make sure you do check that out. Once we got through that, we decided to go up to the top where there is a castle. Now, we weren't there to see the castle, but we just went to the top to see what the angles were and the views. There was a guy who was trying to get us to come into his restaurant, and it was just an outside area. We went up there and they were trying to sell us some fixed set of food that we really didn't want. It was a ridiculous price. So we ended up saying no thank you and traveled down to some of the restaurants in more of the little tourist area down below, which we did go into this one restaurant, and the waiters were, I'm going to guess they were brothers, but one I'm going to guess was 11 or 12 and the other one was 10. Some of the best waiters I've ever had in my life. These kids were fantastic. Let me tell you a quick story too. So when we got there, there was only one table available, and the kid came over and was cleaning off everything. This is a 10-year-old at the time, cleaning the table. Well, some other random, I don't know, 9 or 10-year-old kid with a toy truck came over and jumped into the booth and started running his little truck everywhere, just playing and clueless that we were about to sit down. I don't know where the kid's parents were, and it was obvious this kid was a tourist himself. But what blew me away is how this young waiter handled the situation. As he looked at the kid, he goes, "Sir, sir, excuse me, sir, this table's for these people here, sir." And the little kid kind of looked at him, and he got his toy and politely left. And I was just amazed on how mature this kid was that was the waiter at this restaurant, and how he handled a situation with another kid his own age or maybe a year younger. The service, the food, everything was phenomenal. It was a great experience. I love everything about Krujë except for getting on a side street and sliding backward. So I hope this gives you a good idea about what to expect in these three places. In the next video, we're going to go over some more cities in Albania, so make sure to stay tuned for that. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe. We'd love to have you in the Narrow Gate family. If you feel so inclined, buy us a coffee. We'd really appreciate that as well. So we will see you in the next video, so thank you very much.